Real Country 1430 AM and 107.3 FM WRDN. I'm Brian Winnekins. Joining us today is Durand-Arkansaw School Superintendent Greg Doverspike as we talk about the special school board meeting from Wednesday. And Superintendent Doverspike, thank you for joining us today. Well, first, the board approved an offer on, this is the Kirk Road property that the district had bought before. So that's basically going to be sold?
Yes, we have accepted an offer, but as we all know, nothing really is official until the paperwork is signed and the checks or the check is exchanged. But yeah, we have accepted an offer on the property, so we're excited about that.
Is the district getting their money back or making some money off of this?
Yes, we're on pace to get all of our money back, and with land values the way they are right now, we will probably make a little bit of a profit, so to speak, on the transaction.
And so the money from that, where will that then go?
That will transfer it into our Fund 46 account, which is account for maintenance projects into the future. So we'll transfer that money into that account to help offset any future maintenance projects we have going forward, which is probably the right place for it to go.
And now that's not going to affect the regular funding, right? Because this is kind of like a savings account, so to speak.
Yeah, Fund 46 is where you can transfer money into to do future spending costs or future maintenance projects as approved by your 10-year maintenance plan, which our board has approved. And we've adopted some changes to it as obviously things change throughout the year. As you do some projects, other ones come up. But then along with that, when you put the money in, you get aided on the money at that time, but then you do not receive aid on the money when you spend it. So unlike Fund 10 in your account, if you carry money over from one year to the next in your Fund 10 budget, you lose aid on it. You don't get the aid on the money because it's like you didn't spend it. So this way, when we put it there, it stabilizes our state aid funding from year to year.
You mentioned that Fund 10, if you don't use it, you kind of lose it. That just seems really counterintuitive, but it's just the way the state law. I would think that they would say, well, congratulations, you know what, if you save the money, you get to keep it. And if you want to put it into a savings account or something, knock yourself out, congratulations, but we're not going to penalize you. So it does seem counterintuitive.
Yeah, it is. You do get, you don't necessarily lose the money. You just put it in your account, like, as you say, you're referencing like a savings account. But what ends up happening is you lose state aid on that, which then hurts your taxpayers, because then, as we talked about before, A plus B equals C, the revenue limit C doesn't really change. It's based on enrollment, but you lose aid, which is A or B, take your pick. And then as a result, in order to have it all equal C, the levy increases. So then the taxpayer has to pay the increase. So yeah, it in a sense, it hurts our taxpayers to be fiscally sound, I guess you would almost argue. So it is counterintuitive. But the Fund 46 account has allowed us to put that money that we may have at the end of the year into this Fund 46 account, which then allows us to offset future maintenance projects, which are typically some of your higher ticket items. So that'll helps our budget in the long run and helps the taxpayer in the long run by keeping that aid as high as possible, which therefore decreases the tax levy.
Talking with Durand-Arkansaw School Superintendent Greg Doverspike this morning. During the meeting, before we talk a little bit about some of the changes to the quarantine protocols and that sort of thing, you kind of had some disturbing news for the board in that the police department has been called 3 times because of reactions from parents over what the district is just trying to do to keep everyone safe.
Yeah, we have unfortunately had the emotion has gotten much higher this year when it comes to COVID and quarantining, and we have had some threats made against our nurse or the county that has also spilled over to us related to quarantining individuals, and the conversations have become much more volatile, much more emotional, and there's been times where our staff has felt uncomfortable. So we have had to contact the police department related to that and have them talk to the individuals. And I think it's just unfortunate. There was also a threat made by an individual related to our statement that we do not do critical race theory. There was a statement made related to you saved me many bullets. So we did have to refer that over to the police department as well. And I think one of the frustrating things for those of us in education is education used to be an area that was really not politically charged. And I'm not saying this is political in terms of political parties. It's just education has become so politically charged right now that it's so emotional that it's made it difficult in some cases to do the job. And individuals are more emotional in how things are being talked about now. It's a lot more volatile. You can't have a civil disagreement anymore. It's typically an emotional disagreement. And I think it's made it very difficult to do the job. And it's also a lot more time consuming dealing with that aspect of it. And obviously it's taking time away from other areas of what the profession used to include. And also it takes, time and effort and emotional drain. And there's been research out there that, there's been a lot of individuals at the upper levels of school administration that are seeing, increased blood pressure, heart attacks, stroke, increase in unhealthy ways to cope with the added pressure and stress and involved in, typically right now it's COVID-19, but it's spilled into other areas as well. And I think it's unfortunate. Education used to be an area that was everybody has happy memories for the most part of their schooling experience. And it used to kind of be that place. And in reality, during the school day, when you go out in the hallways, it is still that. It's just the other areas outside of the walls that have crept in that have made this a much more difficult environment with which to operate. And it's unfortunate because really we're here for the kids and we're here to provide a quality education for them. And anything that takes away from that mission and that thought process, I think is detrimental to what we want to do. So, I'm hoping we can get back to that place that we were at probably 3-4 years ago in terms of education quickly, because I think it's driving away quality people from the profession. And it's not just administrators, it's school board members. I mean, when you have to have right, wrong, or indifferent, but when the attorney general has to put out a statement basically saying they're going to look into threats made against school board members across the nation, that's a disturbing thought process because you don't get rich being a school board member. You do it because you have a passion for it and you want to get back to your community. It's becoming very controversial and not a position that people want to be in. And school administration's there, and we have quality teachers leaving the profession just because of how emotional and political it's gotten. And that's, an unfortunate situation because in the end, all it does is hurts the kids. And that's really the worst thing we could be doing right now.
How is the staff handling all of this? Are you seeing that additional stress for yourself and the staff?
I mean, obviously, for myself, the administrative team, for our school nurse, obviously it's been emotionally draining. And I think the energy level to continue to fight the fight for COVID is waning. It's not there anymore. And our teaching staff is overwhelmed right now, and you constantly hear them, and for valid reasons, talking about how overwhelmed they are with kind of everything that's going on. And administratively, we try to keep as much as we can off their plate in that regard, but it's spilling over to them. And obviously, administratively, we're human as well. And what it does is it takes time and effort and emotion, and it's impacting in a lot of cases our family lives as well, because you're not emotionally engaged with the other areas of your life outside of the profession, because the profession takes so much away from you. And then it has a detrimental impact on everybody around you as well. And it's gotten to the point where like I said, I think a lot of quality people that are in this for the right reasons and are in it for the proper reasons are probably going to be leaving the profession, because it's one of those things that's not what you signed up for. And I understand that the job changes and there's certain things you sign up for, but I think what people signed up for, it's gotten so much more than that. And, you know, it comes down to, is this job worth killing yourself over? And some people are going to say no. Some people are going to continue to do it, and some people probably are just better at handling it than others. So I think it's going to be an interesting year, and I think it's in terms of, and I think it's going to be an interesting hiring season. Because I think a lot of quality people are going to leave it. I think hiring is going to become even more difficult because you're going to have quality people leaving, plus you're going to have your typical attrition through retirement, et cetera. That and you know, the candidate pool is going to be stretched even thinner, and it's already stretched thin. And we're no different than any other profession that you see with help wanted signs out. So I think it's going to become extremely difficult.
Talking with Durand-Arkansaw School Superintendent Greg Doverspike today. The board did approve a new quarantine policy to try to make things a little bit simpler, but what's going to happen now here, starting with the new policy, at least through the rest of the month?
Yeah, you know, I think the board is looked at, you know, kind of listening to what the parents are saying and kind of what the information that we're providing to them. And we're going to adopt a new plan. We're going to try something. It's probably a little bit similar to what some other schools are already doing in terms of, you know, quarantining. We're not going to say is optional like some districts are, but we're going to give parents a new option to basically allow kids back without having to quarantine as a close contact. And that is, if you are identified as a close contact, you will be asked you can come back to school immediately, but you're going to be asked to mask for those first 7 days. And then we'll go from there on day 8. You know, if you choose that you do not want your child, you're identified as a close contact, but you do not want your child to mask, then you still have the option of returning on day 8 with a negative test on day 6 or 7, or day 10 if you don't want to test. And all of these options I've just described, including the new one by approval of the board, assumes that you are asymptomatic. And then if you are symptomatic or you want to go the full 14 days, then obviously you're able to return on day 15. The one caveat, or the 2 caveats, I'm sorry, to this new option is it is not available to household contacts. If you are a household contact to a positive, it does not apply to you. We're just seeing way too much transmission, not only us, but just all over in the household. So we're not really making that available to a household close contact because we just want to try to keep everybody as safe as we can. And then if you are an athlete, you are not allowed to return to extracurriculars until day 8, which is you know, kind of an area that I think our local schools that we participate in are really would like, obviously, to keep their kids safe as well, and kind of consistent to what the WA is asking for as well. You know, I was actually just listening to the WA Board of Control meetings and some on the advisory council, and I think there's going to be some. Obviously, the WA is taking a look at how they want to handle their tournament series going forward as we get into that in the fall with COVID. So I think there'll be some information coming out on that as well. So we're trying to find a way to get the kids back in the building to educate them, which is our primary responsibility right away, to help with the parents' burden as we have to quarantine kids. And you know, hopefully and exciting news is it sounds like the 5 to 12-year-old vaccine will be available here relatively soon. I know that Pfizer just put out their request with the FDA. So hopefully that, you know, between the vaccinations and these quarantine options, hopefully will help parents going forward.
All right. Well, Superintendent Doverspike, we appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you very much.
Durand-Arkansaw School Superintendent Greg Doverspike, you're listening to WRDN.